With CJ Stroud out and the Texans much in need of a win, the team is going to go with Case Keenum. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room.
Wild week gets
Texas
wilder.
Talk. Yeah,
it is
you
the
know what
locker
we
room,
about to
number
do.
one source for Texans
Localize
daily
everything
digital
is what
content.
we
I'm Landry
really do.
Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610. Had an interview with Andre Johnson. Going to go live and react to that. Also talk about some of this other stuff more in depth. So join me on the live stream today about 11:30 ish. So an hour plus. If you want to get ready for Texans versus Titans, we got some big news yesterday while you were sleeping, or at least while I was sleeping, with the long week after the disaster in New York and the delayed flight, all that. Aaron Wilson of KPRC, he reports that the Texans are going to start not Davis Mills but Case Keenum on Sunday in Tennessee against the Tennessee Titans. There's been a lot of people that on the text line, on the stream, on Twitter, that have been calling for Case Keenum around here. Now, I will say this. Case Keenum is such a folk hero around Houston that they were calling for him to start when CJ Stroud was starting. I'm exaggerating just a little bit, but Case Keenum is an icon around here. So you're always going to hear people talking about Case Keenum going back to when Deshaun was out, before they drafted Deshaun. Case Keenum is an icon here. I have four thoughts on this, and I want to get yours. And again, we'll go more in depth on this in the stream. But Aaron Wilson, salute to him if he's right. If this ends up being right, Aaron, I know I've given him, I kind of had some fun with Aaron Wilson, always gotten along with Aaron, but I mean, he's kicking ass on the beat. I mean, this is a big scoop, and the biggest scoops this year he's gotten in dominant fashion. So shout out to him. But I have four thoughts on it. Thought number one is why. And I don't mean this in like a smart ass way. I don't mean this in a what the hell are they doing type of way. The reality of the situation is if you're not going to have Nico Collins, if you're not going to have Tank Dell, with the way this offensive line has performed, you're fighting an uphill battle against the Tennessee Titans with Davis Mills or Case Keenum. But why would they go with Case Keenum? According to the report, a lot of it has to do with his knowledge of the system, which is a little bit surprising to me because we've heard that. And maybe this is just PTSD from King Bill and the POS, but that was the reason. Knowledge of the system was the reason that Tom Savage started over Deshaun Watson. I think sometimes coaches can kind of lean on that a little bit too much. Again, that's PTSD. This is a localized. This is a Texan stream. So that's just kind of when you hear that, I'll probably all coaches say stuff like this, but when you hear that, you just kind of cringe a little bit. It's like when all coaches say, I got to coach better. But when Bill O'Brien said it the way that he said it, and he never really coached better and never really changed anything, even if you hear D'Amico say it, there's just like a slight little cringe. And I think anyone that's followed this Texans organization can see that. But I guess the why, experience, knowledge of the system. I'll be honest, I watched overwhelming majority of training camp. I did not feel like Case Keenum was as good as Davis Mills. I actually thought Davis Mills had a good camp. And what makes it even more confusing is it seemed like they liked Davis Mills as a backup. I guess when it came to bleep or get off the pot, maybe they just liked Case Keenum a little bit more in a desperation win type of situation. Thought number two, and this is kind of connected to what we just spoke of. Davis Mills has had a really interesting year plus, and quite frankly, he's had a really interesting last few months. So we were in a situation. Let's just go back to last year, the Cleveland game. Kyle Allen starts over Davis Mills, and there was I didn't see any downside to at least getting a look at Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen stunk. Davis Mills came back in. Davis Mills didn't look great. Had the game against the Indianapolis Colts where they won. And then we come into camp this year, and you have that fake, corny quarterback competition that we all kind of rolled our eyes at, in which Davis Mills was getting a decent chunk of the first team reps early, and then eventually CJ Stroud took over, but they wouldn't name CJ Stroud the starter till late in the preseason leading into the season. Then this year, this is where it's interesting, and this is why I think it's kind of surprising. Like on the surface, Case Keenum over Davis Mills doesn't seem to be a big deal, but there a couple of things are interesting. First of all, Davis Mills looked better than Keenum, I think, in camp. Different people have different eyes. I didn't really hear anyone or see anyone, pounding the table saying, Case Keenum looks better. As a matter of fact, when he had his best game, I think he got hurt. So you started to wonder about the age. So Davis Mills is the backup. He's active on days where Case Keenum is not. There's 3 instances where CJ Stroud left games. Davis Mills came in. He actually threw a pass in 3 different games. He's been the backup all season long, and all of a sudden we get to this point. We're hearing all these good things about Davis Mills, and now you're going with Case Keenum. At the very least, it's kind of interesting. I mean, right? It's kind of interesting because you'd put yourself in position multiple times where had you needed a quarterback to come in a big time situation, it was going to be Davis Mills, not Case Keenum. So now I guess now that it's 100% certain that person has to play and you don't have CJ, you go with it. Who knows? It's just been a really interesting last year plus for Davis Mills. Thought number 3, the organizational approach. This one's interesting. So they're going with system guy over Davis, and I don't think Davis has like some sort of upside. So I don't want to get that misconstrued. I don't think Davis Mills has like some sort of uncanny upside over Case Keenum. But you have this approach where they're going with the veteran on the dire situation, and you also have and I want to kind of give the organization credit. They've done a good job of keeping this a secret up to Saturday, assuming that this report is true. This report could end up not being true. We'll be saying this, and I don't think Aaron would run with it if he didn't know. But the organizational approach, I think, deserves a lot of credit with how the Texans are able to keep it to the vest. And I go back to the because that's really all I have to compare it to. I go back to even Lovie Smith, where he kind of struggled to keep secrets, and there was times where he would go to the podium and look silly. David Culley, Bill O'Brien, and the POS Jack Easterby. They tried very hard to keep secrets, but they were worse at it than anyone. They were very volatile and combative when Bill O'Brien would go up there, and the leaks got out very, very easy, whether it was to their buddies Peter King, Rappaport, whoever, Breer. They were very bad at it. This organization, they've kept this pretty close to the vest for a while. And the organizational approach is interesting. And thought 4, the legend of Case Keenum. I joked this yesterday, and I did not think that there was a possibility that Case Keenum would start this game. I just assumed it would be Mills. But Case Keenum's already a god in Houston. He's a god. Like, his name comes up no matter what the situation is, because of his time at U of H, because of his brief stint with the Texans. Case Keenum, legendary figure around here. If he goes and wins this game against the Tennessee Titans in a gotta have it situation without likely 2 of the top receivers, in a situation where it was just kind of a surprise that he started, and with the Titans wearing the Oilers uniforms, my God. The legend of Case, he might jump into the top 5. He might be right there looking up at Nolan Ryan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Earl Campbell. I'm exaggerating, kinda, but you would have to live here to just understand the legend that is Case Keenum. He wins this one, man. Assuming that this goes down, it's going to be wild. Again, the breaking news: Texans to start Case Keenum per Aaron Wilson, KPRC. Get more in depth on this a little bit later on. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Check out the Andre Johnson interview on the Odyssey app. We'll go through some snippets. We'll have the full link up on the next video coming up shortly. Appreciate you for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital,